Hi, this is Doug Seed. We're here at Rockingham Park. We're doing our last visit to the place after 110 years. You couldn't ask for a better friend or neighbor than Rockingham. We're standing right this moment on the $1 million staircase in the $1 million clubhouse that was built in 1956. That 1956 reopening of the clubhouse brought the track to a level equal with any track in the country. Opened in 1906, built by August Belmont and a fellow named Bettermillion Gates, came up from New York City to build what they called their little country track. And the reason for that was, here in New Hampshire, parimutuel betting was not yet specifically illegal. So they came here, built close to the railroad tracks, gave them a direct line from Boston, gave them a great piece of land. They bought the Isaac Woodbury land and a Kimball farm, and they spent $1 million to build this track, and the grandstand and all the horse facilities. The track finally opened in July of 1906, and horse racing ensued for a total of 2 days before the sheriff came and shut the place down. So much for the not specifically illegal. And they did run the rest of the summer. They ran a month or two as, quote, exhibition races. And, I would suspect that maybe some wagering may have gone on under the stands. Believe it or not, Rockingham Park sat empty for 5 more years until it was redubbed the Rockingham Aviation Park, at which point they held an aerodrome here, and included in the aerodrome, which was a flying demonstration, the local postmaster, Fred Buxton, had petitioned Washington for permission to run an airmail flight from Rockingham Park. Now, the airmail flight was flown from Rockingham Park to the post office in Lawrence, Massachusetts. And that's one of the first authorized by Washington airmail flights in the United States. The pilot's name was Beachy. He flew over Lawrence. He went down to about 80 feet, and he dropped the bag of mail over the Lawrence post office. From 1912 until 1915, there were fairs here. They were big fairs like the Eastern States Exposition out in Springfield. And then again, nothing happened for a couple more years until it was time for World War I, and the Army used the infield of the racetrack and the property to prepare the guys to go to Europe for the war. And of course, they left on the train from Salem, from right here at the park, and went off to war. In 1925, they built a 6,000 foot. Now that's way longer than a mile. And when you think that the track here is a mile long, they built a 6,000 foot track out of 2x10s or 2x12s, and the wood was standing on edge. It was solid wood, board, all nailed together, bolted together. And they did auto racing here until the late 20s, from 1925 till 29, I believe. And as late as 1930, I'm pretty sure, the speed record was here in Salem at Rockingham for many years. And we were in direct competition on exactly the same par as the track at Indianapolis. In 1933, the property was sold again. This time, it was sold to a fellow named Lou Smith. Lou started the New Hampshire Breeders Association, redid the park, freshened everything up, and began horse racing once again. Still available 20 years later at the big bookstores and online. Images of America, Salem, New Hampshire, Volume 1, and Images of America, Volume 2, the Trolleys, Canterbury Lake Park, and Rockingham Park. The motels and the small trailer parks were a haven for vacationers and people who worked at the track for the summer. We had trainers, you had the owners who came and stayed. My grandmother owned one of those motels, the Birches, down at the south end of Salem. And we had a couple who came by bus or train for 36 consecutive summers to come to Rockingham Park. And another interesting little point was nobody had to worry about getting their rent from anybody who worked at the racetrack, because if a jockey or a trainer didn't pay his rent, you just called the racetrack and the racing secretary would have that taken care of the same day, or that fellow wouldn't be back on a horse again. And just another good neighbor feature of Rockingham Park. Going back 83 years, they've been a great friend. When your kids swim in the pool at the Boys and Girls Club, it's the Lou Smith Memorial Pool. When your family goes to the Field of Dreams, Rockingham Park was a big part of that. In fact, Rockingham Park ran hundreds and hundreds of community events here. They sponsored, they gave free rooms for the Board of Trade and the Chamber of Commerce and the Exchange Club and the Rotary and the Kiwanis and everybody in town. Every charity you could think of, the racetrack participated. The racetrack either donated money, space, time, free parking, just an incredible friend and community member. Nobody should think of this as finally getting rid of a blight that's on the town of Salem. This is not a blight on the town of Salem. For over 110 years, this has been the heartbeat of Salem. It provided jobs. Many jobs were lifetime jobs. Thousands and thousands of people, school teachers spent their summers working here. Kids, everybody worked at Canopy, the Coca-Cola plant, Demoulas in its day, during those years, and the racetrack. You could walk horses at 5 in the morning. You could work in the food. I had a newspaper stand here at the racetrack the summer I was 13 years old. On top of their community involvement, the racetrack also had its own police force, somewhat of maybe a fire department, their own chapel. Cardinal Cushing used to come here and do a mass on certain Sundays. So that's my story about Rockingham Park. There are a million stories, but those are the ones I have time to tell you today. I'd like to thank Rockingham Park. I'd like to thank Ed Callahan for giving us the space and the opportunity to shoot and all the things that we've done here over the years. I'd also like to thank Ed for his invaluable help when we did the books in '96. I would especially like to thank Around Town with Larry Seaman and Salem Community Television for taking the time to capture this and edit it and make it into something that we can preserve for the town for a long, long time. Thank you. And I guess for the last time, it's my goodbye from Rockingham Park.